Now, if you're a fan of John Ironfire, like I'm a fan of John Ironfire, you're probably wondering why he was so ride or die for Storm. I mean, ride or die. He meant every word of that phrase. Well, in this, we get to find out exactly why he's like that. My name is Dorian, this is SCM Comics, and we are continuing our coverage of X-Men Red with number 12. So our story starts off in Ameth at the Ivory Spire, which is the home of the White Sword and his 100. And Genesis in this is like Winter in Game of Thrones. She's Coven. So you have the White Sword sitting on his throne, and he's reminiscing about how for centuries he's been pushing back the enemies of Arakko. Now Apocalypse is from the same place. You know, he's been around forever. These guys are kind of same. They live a very, very, very long time. And he's even pushed back Genesis a few times, but this time it's different. He knows that Genesis is in possession of something that's pretty much going to turn the tide, and there's nothing that he can do about it. And who is he talking to? It's John Ironfire, baby. And he's like dumbfounded because he's wondering how a mutant from Okara can be possessed by a Nile, and he just stops him. He won't even let him utter the name. The White Sword doesn't want John Ironfire to say its name because it being so close, it could lay claim to a soul. John Ironfire is like, not my soul, General. And the White Sword is like, even your soul, old friend. So then John Ironfire is pretty much like, my life came from you, my life is yours. Say the word and I'll cut that gold thing in half. And the White Sword is like, you die for me too often for me to count. Now I ask more of you. Now I ask you to survive. See, the White Sword's power is healing, like healing to the point where he can bring people back from the dead, I'm assuming. But then he's like, take the sword and bring word to Arakko. Tell them all, but especially the seed is lost. So of course John Ironfire starts arguing back with him, and then he goes, not anymore. I release you from your obligations. So besides healing, his power is also like hypnosis, because all of a sudden John Ironfire is acting different. He even says, it's like I woke up from a dream. And he looks at the king, or he looks at the White Sword, and he's like, you got no blue. And the White Sword is like, I have. Now you get to experience that now, my friend. And it even tells him, now that I broke my hold, it stays broken. So I can't heal you no more. So if you die again, and then it gets cut off because her armies has arrived. So Genesis is here. So the 100 are outside doing their thing because they just think it's a normal invasion. You know, the White Sword hasn't told him anything that this is going to be different. He just told John Ironfire. Now Genesis, if you didn't read Ten of Swords, is the actual wife of Apocalypse. And if you think Apocalypse is badass, Genesis is on a whole new level. And those four are Apocalypse and Genesis actual kids. I'm not gonna get in their names because that's another book for another day, but let's just say they live up to them. So one of the kids takes an arrow and shoots it in the air and hits one of the 100, and he's instantly taken over by whatever poison's on the arrow. And all he has to do is touch somebody else and he spreads the poison. And one of them's like, they got plague weapons. We need to get the general out here. What are we gonna do? And one of them's like, no, the general cannot come out here. He stays protected in the spear. You're my witness. You heard me call it what it's supposed to be called in the beginning. I called it a spire, not a spear. What the hell's wrong with me? But you witnessed it. If he gets captured, all is lost. And all of a sudden, all you see is the White Sword come out, and he's like, I cannot stand idly by in my spear. I must have been sleepy, because I did it twice. Not once, but twice. Sorry, y'all. While my troops suffer in agony. And he goes to the two-headed captain. He's like, you have served me well, so I will not strike your two heads off for showing fear. And even the good guys are ruthless here. So then he's like, let me see about this contagion. And he knows exactly what it is. And he goes to the original one that got shot with the arrow, and he goes, this is strong, but my touch is stronger. And he just goes, be healed. And because he healed the original, the other ones are healing too. But then all you hear, the general and Ivy comes to the battlefield with bare hands. Where is your namesake, general? And then we see it's Genesis, and she's like, where's your sword? And the general goes, a question for a question. Where's your husband? So then one of the 100 just goes, traitorous queen, and starts using her powers on her. And one of Genesis Apocalypse kids is like, nah, we ain't having that. And just stops it. Like, we're dead in its tracks. So then she goes, I ask again, where is the sword? Where is the sword with deep magic? With that, even with all the power that I hold right now, you would stand a chance. So then the general starts talking big shit. He goes, a chance at what? To hold you at bay? To hide in our spear, forcing you to come in as if we were cowards? Oh, Genesis, surely you know me better than that, as if I would ever use your tactic. So then this pisses off Genesis. She goes, your insult is noted, white nothing. But if insults is all you have, then the time has finally come for you to acknowledge my rule. Arakko called you general, and I will not take no for an answer. And she uses the annihilation staff. And then on the next page, we see and she is now on the throne. But then we also see that John Ironfire has made his way out of the spear and is taking the sword to Arakko. And he's pretty much talking to Storm, the Fisher King, Core, the Burning Heart, Nova, and Sunspot exactly what happened to Ameth. He even breaks down the sword, how the sword can literally cut a path through realities, and that's how he got there. And the Fisher King's like, well, we gotta take this to the Great Ring. And Ironfire gets pissed. He's like, no, you gotta gather the troops. And even Core, the Burning Heart, agrees with Ironfire. It's like, look, if Annihilations is involved, then yeah, he might be right. We need to gather up the troops. So then Ironfire and the Fisher King start to argue. And then Storm has to step in, and once Storm steps in, then everybody stops. And then Storm's talking to Fisher King, was like, man, I expected better from you. He was like, look, I apologize, but he reminds me of me and all the mistakes that I will soon be making when I was that age. So then Ironfire's like, look, I apologize. I'm not trying to call everybody out. Everybody here is steeped in war and pain. And then Nova's like, I wouldn't say steeped. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, you lost a Nova Core twice. You are buried in war and pain. So the Ironfire reminds him that Genesis has Annihilation Staff and that they need to do something before she gets here, because once she gets here, it'll be too late. So on the other side of Arakko, all of a sudden a gate appears and somebody's talking like there's no fertile land, so how can a Krakoan gate show up? And somebody on the other side is like, it's not a Krakoan gate, it's an Alcara gate, and they work differently. And then we see that it's Genesis that comes to the gate, so technically she's already here, and she's meeting with somebody that's working for Clan Akiba, but they're here on behalf of Orcus. Now the reason why that's crazy is because Clan Akiba was started by Apocalypse. So once Apocalypse find out that his old clan is with Orcus, there is going to be hell to pay.